Well, I talked to Lindsey during the break, and he said this is the #1 issue, and I agree. This is all I hear my neighbors talking about, people on other talk radio shows talking about, and it's like, what is the government going to do? What is the government going to do? And their idea is carbon taxes, gas taxes, that will fully destroy our economy, and still the oil well leaks and leaks and leaks, and BP's been caught lying from the beginning, now into day 67, this is decimating the Gulf Coast. But then I did read the reports that this oil is full of all sorts of other toxic elements and chemicals and heavy metals, and it is killing dolphins and turtles en masse. It is just destroying the fishing, the agriculture. The government's done everything it can to block a good response. Lindsey-Williams continuing, you got up to the point of the super, high-powered pressure of this well, which they're now admitting, and then you had new developments.
Yes, Alex, when I was at Prudhoe Bay as the chaplain to the elite of the world for those 3 years' time, I watched them bring in many oil wells. The very first thing they would give, as soon as a new oil well was brought in, they would give, and please write these words down. You want to be correct whenever you say things. Alex, you'll notice that over the years, the only thing I ever give on any show is what I can prove, document, and never do I go into, I think so, I hope so, or possibly could be. I stay away from it. The first thing they would give is the flow rate. They would check how much oil is coming out of that well, how many barrels for a period of time. Second thing they would always give, and you have never heard this about the Gulf of Mexico, they always gave the pressure at the wellhead. Please write down the words wellhead. That's at the top of the pipe. They would take the pressure. Now, the pressure at Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, on the average well was 1,500 pounds per square inch, PSI. The automobile tire on your automobile has 35 pounds per square inch. Your truck tire on a big tandem tractor trailer rig, 100 pounds. Are you ready? Please write this down. From my sources, they say that the Gulf of Mexico oil disaster, BP's well, hit a pressure that human beings have never experienced before on any well they've ever driven. Russia never hit this. They hit pressures, but not this kind of pressure. BP actually hit 20,000 to 70,000 pounds per square inch. This is beyond human technology to contain it. It blew everything. It blew the safety valves. It blew holes in the pipe. Oh, please, this is a new one. I'll intersperse these as we go along. You remember a moment ago I told you that pipe that they drilled in the bottom of the ocean was 2 inches thick and 20 inches in diameter, solid, hardened steel. That pipe right now is no longer 2 inches thick. It is 1 inch thick. Let me explain. You remember that BP, back about 2-3 weeks ago, closed down the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline because for 35 years they've been running oil through it, and it has so diminished the thickness of the pipe that they were getting leaks everywhere. This happens over a period of time because of the extreme pressure and the abrasive substances that are coming out of this pipe in the Gulf of Mexico. The thickness of the wall of that pipe is no longer 2 inches. It is all the way down to 1 inch now, and by the time they can plant a nuclear device, an angle drill, and put it in 3 to 4 months from now, they say, as soon as they could possibly do anything about it, there will be no pipe. I mean, this is so drastic, folks. I sit here startled.
Meanwhile, there's fissures.
70,000 pounds per square inch. There'll be no pipe there.
Meanwhile, there's fissures all over the ocean floor many miles away, leaking, so there's these fractures. And for those that just joined us, BP has now admitted, this is up on prisonplanet.com, they were aware of cracks in oil well 2 months before the explosion, and that they were giving orders to people on the well that the engineers said were dangerous. So just very reckless by BP. Now, getting into the toxicity, you say you were on a talk show in Florida, and that people were calling in saying they were sick. We know the workers in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama are very sick. BP's tried to make them sign waiver forms. They're not even giving them the proper breathing apparatus they need because of the type of toxic chemicals that are off-gassing out of this oil.
Yes, that is the most dangerous part. You know, most people think that the only thing that comes out of an oil well is oil. No, quite to the contrary. There are many things that come out. And it depends on the field or the strata that they go into as to what will actually come out of that well. What is coming out of the well in the Gulf of Mexico? Now, the oil has kind of a reddish color.
All right, stay there. Stay there, Lindsey. Long segment coming up. We'll get into what's coming out of the well. And then I'll also give you my perspective, and we're going to be taking your phone calls here in just a few minutes. Mark, Andrew, Alan, Grant, James, and others. The toll-free number to join us on air, dealing with the oil spill and the aftermath, 1-800-259-9231. But I have seen EPA scientists saying in some areas of the Gulf, there is toxic gases. You should move out of the area. We know they have moved National Guard in. There's been rumors of evacuation. But Lindsey-Williams, you said you've been talking to Gulf radio shows you've been on, and I've been on a few myself, in Florida, in Mississippi, in Louisiana, in Alabama, and none of the people are saying they're being told to evacuate. But we saw what happened with Katrina, where they locked down the city, wouldn't let people get out, and then came for the guns. And so the government is capable of anything. My concern is if a hurricane does hit, and we're only about 2 months out from that, unfortunately, not only will you have the currents taking it out of the Gulf, around Florida into the Atlantic and dispersing it into a wider area, which is still a problem, but at least it's a larger mass area that it'll be in, more diluted, more time to break down through regular biodegrade that oil is very susceptible to. But that the hurricanes are going to drive all that oil, most of it out in the ocean, up on the beaches with the chemicals that it's off-gassing. And so that could trigger just a disaster of unprecedented proportions here in North America. They have had similar things happen in the Gulf and different regions around the Middle East. It's happened in Indonesia. So they have had other big oil spills, but this one is starting to rival those. So continue with the toxicity issue, and then any intel you've got on moves for forced evacuations, because I saw these reports 2 weeks ago, and I called the towns it was supposedly happening in. I called hotels. I called 7-Elevens. People said, no, there's no troops here. Now, some areas said there's troops here, but there's no evacuation. So, Lindsey, continue, and then we're going to go to phone calls.
Well, Alex, you mentioned a subject a moment ago that I need to briefly touch on so they'll understand the magnitude of this whole thing. Senator Bill Nelson appeared he's a Democrat from Florida. He appeared on MSNBC with Andrea Mitchell on the 9th of June. And he said oil is seeping up from the seabed. Just after that, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, who has been denying that the NBP, both, for all of this time, has been denying that there are any leaks coming out at other places in the ocean. That means plumes of oil coming up that somehow escaped from that pipe, because undoubtedly that big pipe was perforated at the time this humongous amount of pressure hit it, 20 to 70,000 pounds per square inch. They just admitted to it. This is by Chris Baltimore from Houston, Texas. It was on Reuters News on June the 8th, and they said, experts are investigating and report admitting oil plumes estimating from the BP's pig-stricken oil well in the Gulf of Mexico, and they say that these plumes are appearing as much as 20 miles away. Did you catch that? Folks, do you realize that 25 to 30,000 feet down, that big 2-inch thick hardened pipe, steel pipe, has undoubtedly burst. And these plumes are working their way out up through the bottom of the ocean, and they now are for the first time admitting that they're there. Even if they stop the pipe itself from flowing, how many plumes do they have out there that they're going to have to stop too? Now, Matt Simmons is a very well-respected person in the oil industry.
And they may have hit a level where it's abiotic, where it's basically unlimited. We know many of the old oil wells are now filling back up, and more petroleum geologists and scientists do believe that it is abiotic, being made in the earth. You can find some small deposits of the oil as we know it, that has particuli from animals in it, dead prehistoric creatures, fossils, coal that has the imprint of ferns in it. So we know there is some fossil fuel that is based on dead life and swamps. But more and more the evidence shows that most oil is abiotic, being produced down in the earth. And what if they've hit a new strata and this sucker just keeps pumping for years? Then we could have a problem, which is biblical in proportions.